What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. It is Matt Johnson here. Greg is hopefully he is getting geared up to hop on the Junior Grandmaster. It's actually his birthday today, so I'm hoping he gets a chance to jump on with us because I want to insult him heavily. Well, if you can't insult someone on their birthday, I mean, what's the point? Um, Guest here, Nick Cooley is with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about the blend of investing and building and running a team. So Nick has got a really interesting background story. We're going to talk a little bit about visualizing and really beginning with the end in mind and just some inspirational, motivational stuff. We're going to talk practical stuff, so it's going to be a really good time. And then hopefully the birthday boy will be able to join us in the process of recording. So first of all, Nick, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, and happy birthday, Greg.
That's right. If you can in the cold nether regions where you're stuck in technology land. Before we jump into kind of the background story and stuff, and you were, I think you were living in your car at one point to kind of get started in things, and there's some interesting stuff to jump into.
Hmm.
What got you really excited right now? Because we're recording this going into the new year. What sort of things are you excited about for next year?
Yeah, we're super excited about. So we started investing, my wife and I. If I say we, there's not a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on.
Okay.
But we started investing in 2016 after sleeping in my car, like you referenced, for a period of my life. But we're now at the point because we're really focused on doing the long-term plays. And so
Hmm.
we're in the process now of equity stripping everything.
Okay.
We're cash out refinancing our entire portfolio to build cash.
Hmm.
Uh, we're betting that inflation will stick around for a bit longer, and we're starting to be more aggressive on scaling into the market.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things I would ask you is to kind of share where you're at and stuff like that. What part of Denver are you in, by the way?
We're in Denver, like
Are you?
just outside of Cherry Creek for people
Yeah.
that are listening to it. Pretty affluent area here in town, and all of our properties are in Denver proper, not Lone Tree, Centennial. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say I used to live in Golden, so I know the area. It's been a few
Oh,
years, but
nice.
yeah. Oh, I love Golden. It was when I first came down like Highway 93 into Golden, it was like the heavens opened. What's funny
Yeah.
about it is I realized years later, so I went up to visit Greg up in like it looks the same, like the yellow golden hills and mountains and stuff, and like that part of Colorado with it not being as green as places like Boulder and Fort Collins, Golden looks
Mm.
a lot like Southern California, which is part of the reason why I liked it so much. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the journey. So you and I both referenced you living in your car, and you came out of like med device sales and stuff like that. So you were like, take me back to that period where like the lowest point. What the hell happened, and where did that?
Yeah. It's way easier to piece it together in hindsight, obviously.
Yeah.
But fresh out of college, I went to school actually thinking that I was going to go to med school, and I graduated undergrad in 2012. And it was kind of on the precipice of when a lot of healthcare was going to start changing. Not for the better or for worse at the time, but certainly there was some uncertainty surrounding the profession. And without fail, every single physician that I was shadowing during my undergrad was like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. I wouldn't go to med school right now if I were you.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
Like
without,
dropping doctor salaries, rising costs of everything, education and insurance and all that stuff. Just the
yeah, a lot of the drive on it was obviously that was when like Obamacare was starting to come out. And so they
Okay.
were just uncertain with what government role was going to play on their
Yeah.
livelihoods. And I was looking at family practice too. So it's not like those guys make a killing anyway,
Right.
especially not for the risk or for the overhead that they have. You know, you
Hmm.
have to employ 10 people. It's just a messy. I put myself through college selling motorcycles
Hmm.
and did really well at that, like just ironically. And so when I had every single doctor telling me, hey, don't go to med school, I was like, well, I'll figure something out. And I got into a sales role, and without having much financial literacy growing up as a kid, every single dollar that I made, I was spending.
Yeah.
Whether it
Been
was,
there.
uh, yeah, hanging out with my buddies, traveling, whatever. And so all it took was one bad break, and I had nothing to fall back on.
Mm.
This was a similar point in my life when I met Hannah, now my wife, and she was born and raised, went to nursing school, everything in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is where we met.
Seriously? That's small world.
Yeah.
I grew up in Omaha.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Omaha's
Yeah.
a market that we're also considering for multifamily stuff. That's
Yeah.
super funny.
It's a good market.
So she was born and raised, never left that area, and her only desire was to move somewhere warm.
Mm.
So me, I didn't know when I'm going to marry
So you
this
ended
girl.
up in Colorado? I feel like
We moved
something
to
has gone
Texas
horribly
first.
wrong.
Yeah, and exactly. Something went super bad. And basically at that point, I was paying for 2 apartments and still doing like a traveling working role. So I was trying to,
Oh.
in order to save up money while I was traveling, I would literally sleep in my car because I couldn't front the hotel costs to get expensed on the back end.
The traveling stuff that you okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the perfect storm of the worst case scenario, and it all, as it occasionally does, happens at the exact same time.
Hmm.
And so that was where we started our journey to uh, financial independence.
Nice. Okay. So all right, so you're traveling, you're sleeping in your car, you're going back and forth between so what was the first steps that you took, and what maybe let's get into the visualization a little bit. What kind of future were you envisioning that kept you moving forward?
It's funny because I think a lot of it. I'm a big sucker for identity in seeing like who you think that you have to be is inevitably who you will become. Tony Robbins has a quote that he says,
Hmm.
like, when you're talking about quitting smoking, if you tell all your friends that you're going to quit smoking, but, I am a smoker, you're never actually going to quit. And on the
Right.
flip side, if you view yourself as an athlete, you don't need to tell anybody that. We can tell by seeing it, right? Like,
Hmm.
we know that you're in the gym five
Yeah.
days a week, or you're swimming or running or whatever.
Yeah.
And whether it's naivete or whatever, uh, luckily, I always just believed in myself. There was never a point in time when I didn't think that I could succeed. But I would say that it came to a head one night in West Texas, just outside of Fort Stockton. Oh, we're getting Greg coming on, I think.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
And
Awesome.
you came in guns blazing, videos on. Awesome.
God,
Happy birthday,
technology
man.
can suck a you know what.
It'll do that to you. That's fine.
Fucking birthdays. I mean, they just know fuck with you, and you're just like, "Oh, it's your birthday. I'm gonna make your life hell. Thanks so much. Really appreciate you."
Yeah. It's the
Oh
story
my
I was
god.
telling. This is your setup for a big comeback. Hopefully, the rest of your birthday
Exactly.
is
That's
So I'm like the Rocky Balboa of
yeah.
podcasting right now. I'm gonna run up the steps and like, exactly, exactly.
Love it, man. Come
so
on,
we're talking about Nick's journey going from traveling, sleeping in his car because he couldn't afford the hotel room, and we're just kind of getting into the visualization stuff, in which I know,
Nice.
Greg, you're always extremely fascinated by, and I think you guys will have a lot in common there, just in how you think about things. Because yeah, Greg, like you went down to 35 bucks to your name in the crash. I shut my real estate team down after the crash and basically went off and did something else. Gave up my house, gave up my vehicle. Yeah, we've all and that's the
Well,
hardest
Nick,
part.
Nick, what you don't know is that and Matt's very shy about it, but he was a for a little while to pay his rent. We don't talk about it on air very much. I'm sorry for putting that out there, but it is my birthday, so I can have a little levity here. But yeah, he was really good at his job. I mean, Chocolate Down Thunder, that
is,
was his
is
nickname.
Oh
is
my
that a
god.
Yelp review? Can we get that on the record?
He's got a lot of 5-star reviews.
Oh my god. All right.
That's funny.
The visualization stuff. So you have this vision of what you want to be, and if like the kind of person you want to be, right? So this is
Totally.
not essentially you're saying to yourself, like, yeah, this is not who I am. This may be what I'm going through right now, not who I am, right?
Totally. And it sounds very like podcasty or like social media influence. be, like my belief in that never wavered.
Really?
Uh-uh.
It's interesting.
Never doubted it once, which is, again, like I said, I'm not above maybe blaming naivety or honestly just ignorance. Like I was dumb enough to think that I could do it, so I did. But either way, it worked. So.
I was gonna say that's a good line, and it's true. I mean, that's where Greg and I were just joking around about it, because I think we've been in podcasting for 6, maybe coming up on 6 years, something like that. I think the spring of 2015. So I guess we're coming up on 7. And
that's awesome.
About the other day, like we had no idea what the F we were doing when we just said like, hey, let's do this, let's do that, and coaching and training and info products and yada yada yada. No clue, no idea. Like how difficult it was going to be. We might have looked for easier things to do. Thank God we didn't, because it ended up being very, very good. But yeah, I mean, it's too dumb to know not to set the goal is a pretty good space to be in, because half the time you end up hitting it. So so what was the progression from there? Because you got into investing, and that's a very odd thing to go into first. There's a lot of people from sleeping, like being down, but they get into a commission sales job, and stuff can quickly in 100% commission sales. You went the opposite direction. You went to investing first before you got into retail.
Yeah. So I am an agent now, obviously, but I've only been an agent for a year, whereas I've been investing in the Denver market since 2016, mostly single family, small multi, 1 to 4 units. And I chalk that up mostly to a conversation with a good buddy of mine that I played football with in college. His name is Ryan Lindrum. He's a lender actually in Fort Collins now. But he and I both moved to Denver simultaneously. So we went out to for New Year's Eve, had a couple cocktails, whatever. And he was telling me these stories about these investors that he was working with that, they would buy a house, and in the worst case scenario, you would have somebody else pay it off for you. And at the end of 30 years, you have a free house. And it was simple enough that I was like, if I did that 4 or 5 times in Denver, like, dude, you've got it made. You're done. There's your entire retirement.
I was going to say, 30 years from now, you have $5 million in assets you sell off and you fund your retirement. Simple.
Done. Right. And, he knew enough people that were doing at a large enough level that it was enough to kind of stoke that fire that was already there. I had always known that I was going to do something larger than what I came from. I grew up in Western Nebraska, literally 0 stoplights, less than 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And I had this desire to do it, but I didn't know what vehicle to utilize to pursue that. And looking back now, I realized that was the spark that started the whole thing.
Really? Like just that one just the combination of just knowing that you wanted to like mind, and then that one spark of a conversation with one guy saying, there's a thing you can do, and just sent you down that path.
Well, and like you said, if you are an agent or if you're in any other kind of a 100% commission sales job, people that aren't in that world don't realize how hard it is. Like, you're working your ass off to make the money that you are, right? And you're taking all the risk. Like, people like to say, oh, this guy made $100,000 that month. That's great. What about the other 6 months that he made 0? Like, that's what people tend to overlook.
Yeah.
And it was important to me to quote Warren Buffett, have a way to make money while I slept. And I viewed real estate as the best way to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And small world, because I used to live in West Denver, but Greg's dad got his start in real estate in the 70s in Boulder.
Ooh.
And then weren't you?
I was born in Boulder. Yeah, 100%. And when he and my mom met, they were going to Boulder, the college in Boulder. And the famous story is that he saw her in her red pants in the library, and he walked up and said, "Will you watch my books?" And yeah, super sexy. Apparently,
I don't. Are you really born in Boulder if you don't have a Colorado native bumper sticker on the back of your Subaru?
That's true. That's true. And the Subaru better have a rack on it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what's the point? Yeah.
Well, a rack or a rack? about. But yeah, no, I was born in Boulder. My dad got his business started there, and he and my mom got married. Literally $50. Take my mom on a honeymoon. Don't know how the fuck that went. Probably like a cheap motel, but I still love him to pieces. But we're lacking in the snow. We call it his clown suit that he would wear as a $50 suit, and he would put glasses on. But he would door knock in the snow. Without doubt, he had the biggest account for IBM in the state of Colorado. So Colorado has my heart, and it's a great place for you guys to be living. Denver, in Denver, kind of a little bit south of Denver. I diverse. Let's continue on in the importance.
I diverse. Oh my God, Greg. All right, I think you can tell you're tired. It's just
I'm exhausted, dude. I've been up since 4.
I know, I can tell.
I'm so tired. It's my birthday right now. I should be on the couch
People are
napping,
bothering
watching
you, wishing you
Christmas
happy
movies.
birthday, sending you Facebook messages. Oh, such a drag to have so many people care about you. Birthday. All right, so let's talk about some of the first. So you get this vision, like, wow, I think I could get into this. You skip the step of getting into a commission sales role and going into real estate in a traditional way. So you get into. What were you doing at the time? Did you get just a regular 9-to-5 job so you can start take out and flip? What'd you do?
Yeah, so I knew eventually. So remember, with my pre-med background, I thought I wanted to do med device sales. I thought that was like the holy grail for a guy that had taken his MCAT that didn't go to med school,
Right?
But still wanted to make money. And so I started getting into business to business sales, actually in construction sales, just in an ironic twist of fate, to the point where I could graduate to med device. And remember, we were starting from below zero. And so bearing in mind that I wanted to have this 30-year focus, I wasn't really concerned about creating additional income for myself, but it was about creating long-term wealth. And so my wife and I scrounged up every single penny we could. And after about 12 months, we were able to put together enough money for a 3.5% down FHA townhome in Denver.
Okay.
And so we bought our primary residence first, maximum leverage, which honestly, at the time, it was like, dude, who cares? We're already at zero. Like, what's the worst case scenario? You go back to zero? It's like, all right,
I was
cool.
going to say, yeah, when you're a lot to lose, like, well, if the house doesn't work, I guess I walk away from the house and we'll start over again. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was funny because we bought that place 2016, end of 2016 for $435,000. And you would check different like real estate forums or different, just kind of within the real estate community. People at the time would say, oh, Denver is so overpriced. Who's going to pay $400,000 for a townhome? You're not even on the coasts.
How much is
and
townhome worth today?
Well, just that it's probably worth 645, 650.
Yeah.
So we're up 200 some thousand bucks.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Process. Yeah, and it's crazy. Like,
that's insane.
Don't time the market, especially if you're starting from such a low net worth, because what ultimately matters over the long term is just controlling more assets. And luckily, I think that's been the biggest benefit to us starting out. Was our goal has never been about monthly cash flow. The deals that we buy do have to pay for themselves, obviously, because I don't want to subsidize the business.
Yeah.
However, with the information era, there are so many people that are chasing quote unquote passive income with zero net worth. Like unless you have a big enough boulder that you can throw around, forget about it. The idea of you being able to generate passive income without a net worth is zero. You can't do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's basically trying to run before you've crawled.
Yeah, it's like when you're first starting out, your own work is what's creating the returns, right? You can increase that with leverage if done properly, but the only way for something to truly be passive, for you to not do anything, is to have a big enough nest egg that you can trim something off the top for somebody else to manage it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Because using a very strict definition of passive, most people are loosey-goosey in their definition of passive. Passive is like anything that's like, recurring, or like there's a lot of different ways to define passive, but if it's actually passive in the sense that you don't have to do anything, yes, that is 100% true. That just doesn't, like, trying to chase that from starting from zeros, it's next to it. And it's going to send you down some weird paths, like all invest. It just sends you down weird paths. So I'm curious, when you started getting into, like, so you start getting these deals, you start learning how to talk to homeowners, eventually agent business, the retail side of it too. It's still 80-20 investing to retail, like you said earlier. What are some of the things that you were doing to find your deals that you kind of carry over from the investing side into the retail side?
Great question. I'm a huge believer in leverage in all sense of the word. Keller is a fan of mentioning that on different things, like The One Thing or Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I really love the book The One Thing, so I'm going to quote Gary, not because I'm a KW agent or fanboy or whatever, but and I bring that all up to say, one of the most appealing parts of real estate is the fact that you're playing in a big enough game that it behooves you to grow a team. If you're an agent that doesn't have a transaction coordinator, you're a fool. Like, flat out, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And so you're playing in a space where my lender, my contractor, my inspector, the other agent, the seller, the buyer, like, the chain of people that benefit from participating in that ecosystem is a mile long. And so the way that comes into sourcing deals is AJ Osborne, who's kind of the self-proclaimed king of self-storage here in the States, a good buddy of mine. He was featured on a podcast one time where he talked about being a bear, where if you're looking for fish, don't stand on the sidelines. Go stand where all that deal flow, where all the fish are coming, and be the source for that. So I do all of my outreach to wholesalers, to other agents. I don't do any direct mail. I hardly do any cold calling. I do a lot of,
So it's
because
almost like a
like, why
referral
would I?
strategy. You're generating,
Totally.
you're looking for introductions into the person who actually needs to get the deal done, right?
Totally. And the benefit to that is I can go ski Vail on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, whenever I want. All I do is I go, well, not all I do, but one of the most frequent things that I do is I go to real estate centric meetups and happy hours, and I go have beers with other people that are in the same community as us. And I have my buy box very well defined. Like, I know exactly, I can describe to you the kinds of deals that we salivate over. And if you find that, think of me first and foremost. I'm happy to pay you a commission, a referral fee, whatever. And actually, to show this, there's one wholesaler in Denver that I work with more than others. She's a good buddy of mine, Kim Johnson. I'll shout her out too. She and I have a running deal right now that if she finds me 10 deals that I can either take over subject to or seller finance, she can keep any one of those 10.
Really? So it's like, interesting. It's like a 10 referral fee.
Totally.
Okay. Very cool.
And I'm way better off for doing that, right? I have 9 homes that I wouldn't have had otherwise with none of my time invested.
Right.
I would love to give away a $500,000 house. Why not? Who cares? She made me $4.5 million.
Yes.
Like, it's the best trade ever.
So you basically turn people into prospectors for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is really, really cool. I know there's it's been a while since Jeff Cohn has been on the show. He was on years ago, and he talked about how he would do in Omaha, just basically train people that, hey, this is who I serve, good at helping as clients. And when he would do that, then he would get, like, Don and Joyce were, looking at whatever. When you just tell us everything, I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of commercial, and no, if you need to buy land, raw, like, just, I'm your guy. Like, nobody really thinks of anybody in particular. They run across and you just kind of get lumped, you get thrown into the bucket of, oh, that's a guy that he's an investor or he's an agent. And that's
Yep.
really, really good to be able to describe exactly the very specific deal do. So many people are resistant to that. I don't know if you did that naturally, if you came to it naturally, or if you had some resistance to overcome. I feel like people have a ton of resistance to that.
Well, and I think what's relevant to it too is like your audience as agents know this better than anybody, right? Like the client that comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to buy a home." Oh, okay, great. Like, what's your timeline? I don't know. Oh, what's on your must-have list? The front door. Like that's not a real buyer, you know. But the
Mm-hmm.
person that comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to buy in Golden, and we want a view of South Table Mountain, and we
Mm-hmm.
want a big enough garage door to fit our Forerunner with our ski racks on top, and hopefully Fido has a backyard." Like,
Mm-hmm.
boom, you better get on that client because they're buying like soon.
Yeah.
It works the same way on investing. Like if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm looking for a deal," okay, like what's the deal? Is
Yeah.
it is it an equity play? Is it cash flow? Is it whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And so it came um, it came naturally to me. I've always been a
Yeah.
bit of a psychology nerd, and my
Mm-hmm.
background in sales definitely helped with
Cool.
understanding that like if you incentivize a behavior, you'll get that behavior.
Yeah. And then how, just final question before we kind of wrap things up.
Sure.
So the people that you meet kind of doing the happy hours and doing the networking and things like that, how do you just maintain the relationships that they keep on thinking of you and you do those, maybe some light touches just to keep the relationship building so it's not just a one and done and 6 months ago, they didn't know of a deal and today they run across it, but they don't remember you. Like, how do you keep that relationship going?
That's a great point. Um, I am intentional about that. I'll be transparent that one of my weaknesses can be building out systems. However, uh, being social is something that comes naturally to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty intentional about following up with people either via text or social media
Mm-hmm.
interactions. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be real estate centric either. It can
Oh.
just be remembering Greg's birthday, or it could
Mm-hmm.
be, "Hey, that's a cool picture of a hamburger that you posted on Instagram," whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
just being front of mind is something that I'm pretty intentional about.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's so I'm the opposite. I'm really good at building systems, not so great at just being outwardly focused. Oh, I should really touch that person or reach out to that person. So I have to make myself that way because the good intentions, and I'm really good at building relationships just like in a general sense, but in the sense of like meeting somebody one time, having a great conversation, and then you realize, oh man, it's been 6 months, 8 months since I reached out to them. My version of that is a Trello board with a lot of our key relationships. So if I just really liked that person, I want to stay in contact with them, whether they're a prospect or a referral partner or whatever. They kind of go on
Yep.
that board, and then I just created another little column in one of our boards where we keep track of people like that called I think it was called Extra Love, and it basically just I'll take people that I really want to stay in contact with and start into that column, and then that column resorts itself and it throws the people that have been in there longest up at the top of the column, and it's like a visual
Love it.
reminder of you should probably follow up with that person that you haven't talked to. So I'm trying to, yeah, like I'm trying to compensate for my a little bit of being an introvert with good systems, whereas you're the exact opposite. You're like out and then not good at building
Totally.
systems, but the end result is the same as long as you stay up with people. And you're right, it is real estate focused. I very rarely follow up. Um, if I just want to build a relationship, it's usually more general, or I'm saying like, hey, is there anybody I can introduce you to? Like, who do you want to meet these days?
Yep.
As opposed to like trying to steer something into a businessy type of conversation. Because usually, if you ask somebody like who they want to meet, who they want to be introduced to, especially someone in business,
Hmm.
it gets them thinking about businesses. Like it gets them in the realm of what they're excited to do this year. It kind of gets you to that place of talking about business, but in a roundabout way. I found that can work doing your strategy where you're building like a referral network of people, and they're all in business in various forms. I think agents struggle with that approach because they find, well, I'm just talking to Joe Blow who owns a home and works a job. Like, who does he want to be introduced? He may not know. Business owners know,
Hmm.
like entrepreneurs know, other investors they want to meet.
Right.
So I like that approach of like building the relationships. Greg, you just were able to jump back in. I think your video is finally caught up. Um, let's Nick, what's the best way for people to reach out, and really who, especially if they're listening and they're in the Denver area or they know people that are moving in, moving out, whatever the case is, who should reach out,
Yeah.
and then how do they connect?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk with anybody that does have clients relocating to the Denver market. I've been here since 2014, which is about as close to a native as you're going to get in the Denver market right now. But otherwise, if you're an agent that is interested in getting into investing, like you work too hard to not have something else working on the back end for you, I'd be happy to share my perspective and what has kind of contributed to our success. And
Yeah.
I'm easy to find on Instagram. That's where I'm most active on social. And my handle there is just I am Nick Cooley.
Oh, easy enough.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then
Yeah.
Greg, how, if you want to unmute yourself, how do people get in touch and connect with you?
Well, they call you Matt, of course, and
Well, I am your personal assistant, as we've decided. Sure.
yes, but of course, and you can schedule an appointment through Matt Geis. His number is 402-311-1126. I feel bad for the human who has that phone number.
I was going to say, probably some poor woman in Kearney, something like that. Like, who is this? You're trying to reach Greg who? Yeah.
No, guys, go ahead and reach out to me. Real phone number, as you guys have all, it's burned into your memory. Matt, what is my phone number?
It is 1978.
Ah,
the number
and
that haunts my dreams. Yeah.
He's knocks
right.
it out of the park on that one. Great job on that. Reach out to me.
The reason they should contact you.
Oh, well, that's because I'm sexy.
Besides that.
Let's be honest. No, seriously, let's talk about podcasting. Let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about scripting. Let's talk about EXP. Let's talk about anything you guys want to talk about. I'm here. This actually is my real phone. No joke. I just took a photo of our podcast if you guys can see it. So it is my phone. It does ring. Matt pays my bills. So it works half the time, but love to have a conversation with you guys. Again, 925, 915, 1978, and let's go from there. But Matt, you wrote a great little pamphlet. It is very influential. It is called Micro Famous. That's what it is. Micro Famous. How do you get a copy of Micro Famous?
Easy. Go to getmicrofamous.com where you can sign up for the email list and get the digital copy for free. Of course, if you're a physical print book person, you can go to Amazon. And the reason you're getting into the arena of thought leadership, coaching, consulting, writing books, whatever. If you want to like build a brand that allows you to influence people, monetize that brand through coaching and consulting and things like that, that will give you a path there without having to go the Gary Vee route of having millions of fans and really going after just a smaller group of the right people that have plenty of money to pay you, so you make a massive impact within a world that you want to be famous in without having to be Gary Vee, Tony Robbins famous. So that's what it's about, and then that's what the agency helps you do with podcast production, launch, and all that fun stuff. Microfamous.com. All right, gentlemen.
You definitely do need to go get that book, guys. I bust Matt's nuts all the time about this. But in all honesty, it is an extremely well-written book with tremendous content. And I'm dyslexic, and I even enjoyed the book.
It's great at holding up the edge of Greg's dining room table. It's spectacular for that.
Why do you think the laptop's sitting on right now? I mean,
exactly.
come on.
That's where your copy is. And highlighted and then sitting under the dining room table.
Of course.
Nick, this has been a blast. I appreciate it. Hopefully people will reach out to you and connect if they've got anything going on in Denver, especially if they're in that area and want to connect and like help you out, network. And then I'm excited to see just the next steps for you. You're working on building out your retail team. Is there any particular type of agents that you're looking to attract, or anyone in particular that should keep an eye out for what you're doing in the retail space?
Thanks for bringing it up. We are actually looking at bringing agents onto our team. Anybody that has a passion for not only just doing the right thing, like if there's ever any gray area, just take care of people, but also wanting to be an investor. I believe that being an agent is one of the best jobs out there right now, especially and doubly so if you can recognize that knowledge to build your own wealth via real estate investing. So
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. And then, guys, if you want to go deeper on that kind of path, Nick is going to be a guest on one of the podcasts we produce, which is hosted by Tom Caffarella. He's been a repeat guest here on our show. Go, even deeper into that conversation of bridging that and really being an agent in. So I think him and Tom are set to record here in a few days. So that episode will come out or probably around the time that you guys are listening to this episode. So you can dive deeper with Nick on that show as well. Go check out that show and make sure to subscribe and to both of them. Rate, review the show, all that fun stuff. And Nick, we really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for going deep on your journey. And yeah, Greg, should we wrap things up? Yourself, please.
Well.
I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
Yes. Would you like to wrap things up? It's your honorary role.
Oh, sorry. I was in the middle of responding to a client's text message. This is what they call, big. As Matt almost spits his coffee out of his mouth.
big boy work. All right, Greg.
All right.
Wrap it up.
All right, Matt. So let's do this. We have a role here, Nick and Matt. I need 2 colors for the bow for the show. So, Nick, you first. What color would you like to put on the bow for the show?
I think we got to go orange today.
Orange.
Ah, I stole my thunder. That's what I was going to pick. All right, so I got to put. What's a complimentary color? Black. Just because I feel like it. Orange and black.
Orange and black. Orange and black.
Classic. I feel like it's
Isn't
like a
that
high school mascot 101.
Yeah, isn't there
Something.
a song about that?
Bengals or brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Nick, you crushed, you leveled the playing field for a lot of folks. I mean, they're gonna have to step up to kind of be at your level. So we love you. We appreciate you coming on the show. So thank you, guys and gals, everyone who's out there. Go out there, give us a like and a subscribe. Also give a hashtag to Nick in any comments if you like his content. Please remind Matt that it is the holiday season and he needs to go from a black heart boy heart. And so just give him some love, give him some likes in all the comments. But we're going to put an orange and a black bow on the show. We cannot do this without you guys. So give us a 5-star, not a 2-star review, because that'll help the algorithm serve it up to other folks. But until then, peace out, ninjas. We gone.